Okay, so what I'm gonna jump into a dancer's questions. We
Okay.
have people, I can't even tell you, like there was hundreds of questions, but I
Oh,
chosen the ones that I think are really gonna help dancers.
okay.
I'm not sure if you ever done something like this before. These are dancers from all over the world actually. I chosen 6 questions. Okay,
Okay.
because some of them were like kind of similar, but it was one of these where I can see these guys are really struggling or they really have a curiosity. I've got Hannah Lee from the UK that says, why, Brian, do you think dancers are so underrated and underpaid for working hard nowadays?
I don't know. That is like the $1 million, £1 million question. Um, it's something that I've been curious about my entire career. Growing up as a kid, when I was younger, there was this stigma. People were like, "Oh, don't be a dancer. You'll be a struggling artist your entire life." And for me, that was my passion and that was what I wanted to do. So there was no other option. It wasn't a choice that I was making. At least in my eyes, it wasn't a choice that I was making. So once I did start working, I was really excited because I realized that I could make a living doing that. And then I started to see the reality after living in Los Angeles and working in the entertainment industry and being on sets and realizing that we were being treated less than everyone else that was on the job, whether it was a model who was basically an extra standing around in a music video. They would come on set for maybe 20% of the time that the dancers were on set. They would stand there and they would be getting paid 4 times what the dancers were getting paid, and they would have their own dressing room. So it was that reality that I think was the most shocking to me as a younger dancer. Now, cut to me being older and working on the other side of things, I always fight for dancers' rights when I'm casting dancers for a job, but there is no standard union that covers us. So you can fight all you want, but they don't have to pay that. We have Dancers Alliance, which establishes a base rate, and I make sure that we never go below that rate, but that rate is far below what it really should be for the amount of work that we are doing. But because of Dancers Alliance and a lot of the agents now and Choreographers Alliance on the other side of things for choreographers, they are fighting to try and get standardized contracts for us with the unions so that we are protected and we are making more. So there's movement being made now to try and rectify the situation, but it is by no means where it should be, especially after all of these years. I mean, if you look back into old Hollywood, you've got Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, all of these greats who were in musicals who were respected and who were paid.
Yeah.
But dance had to be attached to vocals and acting in order to be respected. It couldn't
I
just be a chorus dancer,
the triple threat, like they used to say, right?
which you get that now. If you're a triple threat on Broadway, you can dance and make great money, but not just solely dancers. But I mean, that's the beauty now of social media and YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, is that people are making money doing just dance and being a dance personality. Now we need to make that segue into the entertainment industry. So dancers on films and in music videos and in commercials and for music artists are getting the same respect. And I think music artists, that's the one niche in the dance world where if you get with the right artist who really respects their dancers and their team, they will get a great rate for being on tour. But it's not every artist, and it's something also that needs to be fixed. So
So,
I don't know
Hannah,
why it is. It makes zero sense. We work the hardest on set,
our
physically.
bodies, everything, like mentally remembering everything. Yeah, and it's not considered, but Hannah, at least you've got an idea of what Brian feels, and I feel the same way. I
All
think
in it
it's
together.
right.
We're all in it together. We all share the same exact feelings.
Okay, I've got Anat Lakovavishli is from Israel. You're
Yeah.
very lost on Israel, by the way. Most of them coming from there.
Oh, that's
And
not cool.
right, they're like, come back, come back. The mess, like, Anad actually sent about 100 million different questions, but I chose one as well. How you choose your songs, Brian, to choreograph, and how long does it take you?
Um, I my hobby is finding songs to choreograph to. I mean, that's kind of how I have to think about this because it's this never-ending cycle that goes on because I always want to have new material to teach. And there's always music out there that's coming out that's fresh. I find myself, and I've said this before, that I find myself always trying to find the new music when there's also so much music that is from the past that I have not used. So I fall into that new music thing a lot, and I wish that I didn't. And every once in a while I remind myself to go back, and then I get so excited using these old songs and introducing younger dancers to music that they may not know as well. So between those two things, I'm always listening to music. I'm always trying to hear what's new, what's fresh. I take suggestions a lot. I don't ask for suggestions, but people are always sending me music, which I appreciate more than anything. So for all of you out there who have done that and who have sent me music, thank you so much, because it definitely inspires me. And even if I don't use that song, it sometimes leads me down that rabbit hole to finding some other music, you know, when I click on them and a suggestion comes up. But I am always scouring the world for music, and I do the music that catches me when I first listen to it. And there's different things that I choreograph for. You know, I teach on a dance convention in the States, and then I also teach at dance camps globally, and I teach master classes in Los Angeles. So between all of these things, there's different types of music that I need. When I'm teaching a young kids dance class in America on convention, I like it to be very clean music that has a bright light sound to it that gets the room excited. So I'm looking for a specific thing when I choreograph for that. If I'm going to teach at a more hip hop urban based studio, I definitely want to do something more urban based. If I'm going to work with Joffrey, I'm going to do something more contemporary based that has a little bit more technique. So I go for the emotional side of music. So I'm always searching for these different kind of sounds. When I find a song that resonates with me, that I love, that I want to hear over and over, because when you're choreographing to something, you are going to hear it over and over when you're prepping it, and then you are going to hear it over and over when you're in class. So you have to make sure that this music is something that you really like and want to attach to your brand and who you are. So once I do find those songs, I marinate on them for a long time. I like to listen to it over and over in a playlist, and then I feel like I'm ready to go in and choreograph to it. When I go into choreograph, I generally go in with my assistants because my body, a lot of years of dancing, and I like to see it on their bodies over and over so I can make the changes to it. And then I dance at the end of it and make sure that I physically am solid on it all. But that process, when I go into the studio, generally, I like to knock out a lot of choreography at once. So I go in with the hope that I'm going to do 3 to 4 different pieces of choreography in that day. And I will book out anywhere from 4 to 5 hours to do that. Some days are good and I will get all of it done. Other days are not. Maybe I'll only get 2 done in that 4 hours or 5 hours. So I would say it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to do one piece of choreography. It also depends.
Choreography, but how many 8 counts? You talking about the whole song?
It also depends on how long the piece is. When I'm teaching a younger kids class, the material isn't as difficult, so I can choreograph it faster. But if I'm doing one of my more LA-based master classes, if I was going to teach a class at Millennium, I would generally, or a T-Milli class, I would be doing 12 8 counts, and it would be pretty extreme work. When Giannis Marshall and I teach together, we normally do like 12 to 14 or 16 8 counts. So those are a little bit longer. Giannis and I, when we prep a combo, maybe 3 hours or 4 hours is how long it takes us. But I think it just depends on the song too. Sometimes I get in a roadblock. I'll go in with a piece of music that I really want to choreograph to, and it doesn't sit right on my body, and I keep doing different things and I hate everything I do, and then it gets to the end and I videotape it and I go home and I watch it and I hate it even more, and then I call my assistants back and we go in and we change the whole thing. So there's not a set plan. It doesn't ever work out the same way. And if you're a choreographer and you're wondering, like, am I doing this right? There is no right and wrong when it comes to choreography. It's a process, and it's a process that's different for everyone. And everyone's process, I think, changes. You know, it's art. It's not something that is black and white that you can just compute the math problem and work it out. It's going to be different every time. It's based on your emotion. It's based on your brain. Yeah, there's no right and wrong answer. You just got to keep trucking. Some days you have great days, and some days horrible days. And I think
like,
for me, holding on to the great days is kind of what gets you through the horrible days. Yeah, because those horrible days, you're like, what is going on? I cannot find anything. Nothing feels good in my body. Yeah, my advice when that happens, if you are a choreographer, is just take a break. Because when you're in that mood, nothing good's going to come out of it.
It's like you're in a black box. There's nothing, you can't come out of it. You're like, I can't get out of this.
Yeah, find a damn step. Yeah, I'm there a lot.
Alex Bignali from Italy says, I finished high school, Brian, and I'm trying to really get into this dance industry, but I feel super lost. I've got a question to ask you. Is Millennium a right place for me to go and dance in LA?
In LA, well, that's a very far journey to go and train as a dancer all the way from Italy to Los Angeles. But if that is your goal and your dream, and you see Millennium as this shining beacon of hope and light and inspiration, then yes, it's the right place because it's where you are gravitating towards. And I believe that the universe is telling you what it is that you need to do. And if that is what you see, then go for it. It's a great place to train. There are thousands of great places to train. And I think one thing that you need to know as a dancer is that it's not always about what's flashy. It's just about you, period. It's about how hard you work in that class. It's about what you're giving to the teacher that is standing in front of you. You can go into, I always tell this to my students, you can go into a basic ballet class that is the easiest, simple foundation, and you can get the hardest work out of your life because of what you're applying to that. So sometimes people think, oh, I need to go to Los Angeles, or I need to go to New York, or I need to go to London, and I need to train with that person because they are famous. And yes, that person is really well known, but they're not going to give you that much more than what you can get next door. So I say to use those people as inspiration, but then to work your ass off in the classes that you're currently in. But with that being said, go for it. Go to Millennium. If you're feeling like you're in this rut, I know that getting yourself in an environment like that at any of the big studios around the world that are well known, getting yourself in those environments is going to give you the kick in your butt that you need, because you're going to be around like-minded dancers. And I think that's the big change from being somewhere local that you're training. If you don't have an abundance of professional dancers who inspire you and who push you to be better, then that's what you will gain by going somewhere like that. I mean, having those dancers in the room definitely makes you have to step up to get to their level. And the other thing about these studios is there's cameras all over them now. So that's another level of stress that makes you have to pull up in the process. So you will see a lot more growth in yourself by being in those places.
Stefan Paduraru from Herefordshire here in the UK saying, Brian, how do you feel with no-nos in the industry, and not for your skill, but for your looks?
No's are part of the game in the industry. It's just something that is a reality. You will hear 1,000 no's and 1 yes. So I think realizing that it's reality, A, is part of the game. B, everyone gets no's. Even the people who you would think don't get no's. You know, especially now. When I was growing up, I always go back to when I was growing up because I'm a dinosaur. But when I was growing up, it was a little less inclusive. I mean, okay, let's be real. It was completely non-inclusive. is what the world was when I was growing up. You had to fit into a mold to work as a dancer. They wanted skinny and tall. Those were the two things that you had to be. And that was for a female. For the men, you had to be tall and muscular. Those were the only two body types that got hired. And you also had to be an incredible dancer. You couldn't just have fire. There wasn't a lot of improving on jobs when I was a kid. It was all about how you did the choreography. So you had to be an incredible dancer and you had to fit this body type mold. Now, over the years, that has definitely changed. A lot of freestylers are getting booked on jobs just to do what it is that they do. So you already have a bonus in this generation because you're being accepted for who you are and not necessarily how you do choreography. Second thing, we are so much more inclusive in terms of body shapes and genders. People that are non-binary are working all the time now. They don't actually want to know if you're male or female. They are more inclusive of the trans community. They are more inclusive of all different body types and shapes. So you've got it really good this generation, I'm telling you. You've got it. I think any other generation that has ever walked the dance industry. So that being said, yes, there's going to be no's. And a lot of the time, you can't have anything to do with it. You can't change the outcome. All you can do is walk into every audition with the mindset of, I am here. This is who I am. You need me. I don't need you. And then do what you do. And whatever the outcome is what it is. And you're not meant to be there if you don't get that job. My mom told me over and over and over again, every time I would leave an audition, heartbroken because I didn't book it, she would say, this wasn't meant to be. And it was so simple, but it always calmed me down. And I mean, that's something that you take into life, not just your jobs, but things that come into your life and go out of your life. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And you can't worry about that because something else that is in your path is coming right behind that. So it's a state of mind. It truly is. And it's hard. I know we all have those jobs that our hearts are set on, and I've got them too. I always wanted to work for Madonna. She was my idol growing up. I wanted everything to do with her, and I auditioned for her as a dancer and multiple times, and I made it to the end on all of them when I auditioned for her and stood in front of her, talked to her when you're in that final lineup, and I never booked anything for her. And I've always choreographed for her. Never done it, never able to. So we all don't get what we want, and it happens to everyone. And I think that's one of the things that you need to realize is that we are all equal. And I think right now being quarantined in our homes is even more of a reality check for that. No one is safe right now. We are all the same, sitting in the same exact position, waiting for the same exact outcome. So just remember that no one, even the people that you think their life is perfect, all these dancers that you look up to, like, oh, I just wish I was like them, they must get everything, they're hearing no's too. So just accept. Yeah. Oh, it's a big hug, and we're all hugging each other with those no's. We're all in the same boat together.
There's so many things behind the scenes that people don't know about, isn't it? Everything is not what it seems to be.
Yeah.
And you hear that? If Brian is going through it, Stefan, then that means you're going to go through it too. Okay. We have two more questions. Okay. We have Adva Bugamin from Israel. She says, I'm 24 years old. I want to continue training, but I feel really old. Is it too late for me to start dancing and get my flexibility better, Brian?
No. It's so funny to me when I hear you 20-something saying you're old at 24. There are so many dancers that I have worked with who have gone on to be successful choreographers who didn't even start dancing until their 20s. Two off the top of my head, Chris Judd, who is successful beyond belief, on tour with artists like Michael Jackson and choreographing for people like J-Lo. Chris didn't start dancing until his 20s. He started dancing because he liked a girl, and he was working at Disney World in Florida, and he was working as a character with a head on, and he said to her that he wanted to take her out, and she was a dancer, and she said, I don't date characters. So he said, okay, well, I'll become a dancer, and I'll get in that show that you're in so that you'll date me. And that's why he started dancing. So this can happen later in life. Teresa Espinosa is another dancer who started dancing in freestyle circles and then started dancing in her 20s and
And
kept going on Janet Jackson and Britney Spears and everyone else. So you can start whenever you want. And you're talking about getting flexibility back right now. That's me. Flexibility for me, and the older you get, goes away if you don't stretch within a matter of weeks, months. It's something that you can lose very quickly. And because I hadn't been dancing for a while, I lost all my flexibility. And now I'm here in my house every day using this quarantine time to get myself back in shape. I'm stretching every single day and I'm seeing massive results just because I'm putting in the time. So you can work on your flexibility and
do it
have
now.
plenty of time left in your life to have a career.
There you go. You tell them, Brian. I feel the same way. I feel more flexible than when I was a little bit younger anyway. I don't know why. I just got it in my head. And then, hey.
It's how you do it as well, because a lot of people think, oh, I need to go to dance class and only stretch that way. And you're using the hours at class to get better at it. And you're forgetting all those hours you have at home. And then you're forgetting all the different techniques that you can use to stretch, be it Pilates, yoga, all of these different techniques. So I think just if it is something that you want to do, be serious about it and apply everything you have to getting better at it.
There you go. You got it, Adva. And the last one, Jana Kotsnova from Estonia. She's saying, is it realistic to be a teacher or choreographer at the age of 16?
Yes, it is realistic to be a teacher and choreographer. I think the words we use are very powerful, and you can be a choreographer at the age of 5. Choreographing is putting things together and making movement. That's all it is. Are you able to be a working choreographer, directing scenes on set with tons of dancers who are professional and older at 16? Maybe. If you are a phenom, if you are a genius and you have this God-given gift that is coming out of you, then yes, you can do that. Are you able to be a teacher? Can you go in a room at 16? Yes. What room are you going into? Are you going into a room with 6-year-olds and there are 5 of them in there and you're teaching them basic dance? 100%. That's how I started. I started at 14 and 15 making steps up in my dance studio, supervised by my dance teacher and by my mother, who was also my dance teacher. I wasn't teaching my own classes until I was 16, about to turn 17. And I considered myself gifted at that, at teaching. I had something to say and something to give. There are also other people, Cassandra Chavez, who started her company when she was 15 because she had a voice and something to say. Mia Michaels, who started her company when she was a teenager. Wade Robson, who started teaching master classes at Millennium at 14 because he had an opinion and something to say, and a wealth of knowledge that was accumulated from being an artist from the age of 7 and having trained with the best of the best. So I do believe that you can have a voice. Looking at people like Sean Liu, who was trained under myself and Mia, and the list goes on and on, Trisha Miranda, who now has his own voice, and he's only 18, he's a teenager, but he's been teaching since he was 16. So I do believe that there are the exceptions to the rule. And then there are people who teach before their time, and as long as they're not saying masterclass, when they go out and teach, then I think it's fine. If they go and they get their feet wet doing it, and sometimes they're brilliant, and other times you can tell that they really should not be doing that yet. They're a little bit ahead of their time, but they'll learn and they'll get older and they'll become stronger, and then they'll look back and say, maybe I shouldn't have started so soon. But teaching is something that you get better with over time. It is something that with age comes wisdom, and then you're sharing that wisdom with your classroom. So I do believe that reserving the word master teacher is something that should really be saved for people who are masters in their craft and who really have something to give to their students. If not, it should be a workshop, it should be a dance class, those types of things. But yeah, 16. Be smart if you're choosing a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old's class to take. Just be really smart with where you place your money. And if people have taken their classes, maybe reach out and ask about their classes and ask how they were from students who were in them before you go and spend your money, because you may be upset and want your money back.
Well, did you hear that? That you've got master classes and you've got classes. Master classes are those like Brian Friedman, Trisha Miranda, Kevin Maha, you know, the top people that have been doing decent work and understand. Okay, so please, let's not just pick up somebody that's just been training for a year or two.
Haven't been there. There are a lot of people, a lot of you only want to take the name, the person who has the following, the person who has the big YouTube channel, the person who gets the views. And you're overlooking so many brilliant teachers who don't have those followings because they don't care to play that game, but they're incredible teachers. So I just urge you, don't look.
Come on, Jones. Come on, Jones barely has anything in YouTube.
But AJ's a successful choreographer in the industry, and I'm saying there are so many choreographer teachers, master teachers, who are not choreographers in the industry, who you would never be able to view their work from music videos or TV or film, that work in your local studios, that don't work at a professional studio. I'm just saying, don't overlook your local teachers, your local studios, and the teachers at the professional studios who may not have as big of a following. Just do your research, watch a class, give them a chance every once in a while, because you might find something that you really like.